Okay, so this is one of our farm hacks, and the front door was starting to flop around on the hinge, so I thought I'd start to clean it up, and it's kind of got out of control. There's so much rust in it. I'm not really worried about it passing a warrant. I just want it to last at least a couple of years. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this all up, carry on cleaning this all up, get rid of all these jagged bits. It had a panel skin layer over top, right, which is just thin panel steel. So it's a farm vehicle, it just needs to be strong. I will rust treat the hell out of all this once I finish cleaning it all up. Then I will I've got no folders or anything here, but what I do have is some 1.6 cold steel, and that will be good enough for this, for a farm vehicle. So I'll do it in 3 pieces. I'll bring one down this side here, cut that pattern, then I will do the center piece, then I will do the side piece, then I will take it all off, I will weld it all up off the car and bring it back, and all I have to do is go round and weld it in place so she's nice and strong. All the holes will line up, everything will be one piece. Alrighty, well, I've made 2 patches, two patterns for the sides, so they will give me my side patterns. What I'm going to do before I do anything about that is these hinge mounts have not got a lot of strength left there around them. I will, because I'm putting heavier gauge steel over than normal, I'll be puddling through it anyway on each side. But I was just sitting there thinking I might just cut out the rust on one side, put a patch in there, and then do the same on the other side just to strengthen it up, and that way I'm not moving the original mount holes. At the bottom here I'll do the same thing. I'll just make a C-section, put it in up behind, slide it up, weld it up here, and weld it down here so it's nice and solid, and that will, you put a couple of welds through and that'll hold it all together and be nice and strong, and just strengthen up both these hinges so that when you get caught in a big gust of wind you don't lose your doors. So that's all cut out. Here's my patch. I've slotted it to fit in behind that and fit there. One thing anyone who's doing any steel work on cars, even though this isn't legal, and I'm not intending this to be legal, I just want it strong. I also don't want it rusting out again. I just use this. There's lots of products out there. Anything will do that is weld through and rust protection. If you're going to be covering something and you can get at it with a spray can, just give that a squirt as well, let it dry and weld it in. When you finish the job, you always blow something down like an enamel paint or rust proofing or cavity wax, just anything to seal off the inside after you finish welding. So that's that side welded in. Remember, this is a farm hack. I'm using flux core on a 200 amp MIG, 1.2 mil flux core wire, welding light gauge steel. So as long as it's strong, it doesn't have to be pretty. I'll get the other side all done and welded up, and then we'll look at the bottom. Okay, I forgot to record it, but here I've welded a piece in around here, back there, folded. If you look down in here, you can just see the edge of it there. It's welded on the inside on both sides. Down here I just used some of the rust holes and welded to it through the rust holes, filled the holes up. Here I just drilled some holes and welded the face of it to hold it secure. It's got a weld down here to hold this in so that the holes, the bolt holes are anchored, and a weld down the side there and down there to hold it all in place. So that's that strengthened up. Okay, so I'm just going to do this in steps. That there is going to get welded in there. I'll just, so there's my cardboard cutout. That's just going to get welded in there like that. So I will cut that out of my piece of steel down there and get it all cleaned up and zinced, and then get that all tacked in, and then it's a long slow process with the blowgun, making sure I don't set fire to anything inside while I'm welding it all up. So what's going on here? I've welded in all of this, welded it up here, around here, up here. Done a quick weld around here. I'll just do a little bit more to fill in that tiny hole. I've just bent this bit over, so I've got to just do a little bit of welding around here just to finish that off. All in here is welded. Some things I wanted to point out to you. This here, I slide in between the dash and up behind that entire panel everywhere I'm welding, right? So as I'm going, I'm moving it up and down to make sure that there's a heat barrier between the wiring and anything else that's up there. Sometimes there's insulation, all cars are different. This one's got a bit of insulation in there, a bit of wiring. So you can see this hole here. You can actually see my plate come in. Did you see that? Alright, so you see my plate come in. So when I'm welding a patch over this, that is protected underneath there. On top of that, I always, as I'm welding, have my air line. And as I'm sitting here, I have my air line with my blowgun in it, and I have that sitting on my lap, always sitting there. So as I'm welding, I do a little bit of weld, then I flick my helmet up, grab my air gun, blow it all out and get the heat out of the weld straight away. And at most I'm doing is a 10mm weld, just a little 10mm weld. And then I'm blowing it all cool again, then I'm doing it again. I just keep doing that, and yes, you get ugly welds, but I've got a windscreen right there. I've got wiring in behind this pillar. You have to keep the heat out of everything. If one thing catches on fire, you're in trouble. If you can't get to it to blow it out, you're not going to stop it. So the best way is prevention rather than reaction. What I'm going to do now is just make up a quick square patch here. I'll weld that in. I won't actually bother welding it. Oh, yeah, I will. I'll weld it to the body. My plate comes right in, so I'll weld it to there. I'll weld that. Then I've got to clean up all these edges after I've done this last bit of welding, and start making the skin to go over the whole thing. Okay, so I started picking away at some of this, what I thought was just thick paint, turned out to be filler. And I saw a crack, so I cleaned it. I had to remove this front panel and cleaned it all out, and I would say that over a matter of years, that crack there from an original repair, you can see where they cut it and done a ratchet weld, but that crack would have been what has rusted out all of this down here. And you notice all the rust is down this side of the pillar. That crack would have been running water down there for years. That's why it's rusted out. So I'm going to tap that down, get that crack all closed up, and then just go along. I'll have to cover the window and just spot, blow it with the cold air, spot, blow it with the cold air, spot, and just do that, and hopefully I'll get away with, well, looks like I got away with it. The reason I wanted to weld it is because it was on an outside corner, and taking a risk with a windscreen is whether or not you have to do it. If it was further down and I could get away with gluing that whole thing and filling the whole thing up with glue, I would have done that. But because it was on an outside edge, to stop that water going down inside the pillar, I had to connect it all back together, and after it's painted, after it's all etched and everything's all ready, I will just go around and squeeze some glue into any little pinholes and then paint over that, so it'll all be sealed off. There'll be no moisture getting inside that pillar. But yeah, so I'm making the pillar patches now. Like I said, I got no kneeler, no grafting machine, no folders or anything here at my disposal. So the easiest way to get the shape of this, because it curves that way and it curves that way, and it's just you got to get the bottom angle right. The easiest way to do it was to do it in one piece that side, one piece that side, and one piece up the middle. And I will get it all tacked in place. Then I'll take it back off, weld it all up properly, clean it all up, and then zinc spray everything, and then put it in. And all I have to do is weld the outside edge, and she's all in. I've already marked all the bolt holes and drilled them out so they line up, so when I come to put it back on I can just bolt it in place and then go around and weld everything up. I'm just using F-clamps to hold it together while I tack it, so I'm just working my way around, doing one bit at a time, just tack it here, tack it there, get it all tacked together, and then I will strengthen it up a bit, then I'll take it off and weld it up properly. Right, so there it is, all tacked together. So now I weld it all up, clean it up, zinc it all up inside and out, and then it gets welded in place. A couple of little patches to do after it's welded in place, but other than that, she's well on way. So there, it is all welded up, and zinc coat on the inside. That's the outside. I'm going to leave that like that. I won't be bogging it or anything like that. I might okay, so pull it all welded in, gone round, I've given it a quick grind up. I'm not, like I said, it's getting no bog or anything. All I'll do is after it's primed I'll squeeze some glue around all the welds just to make sure there's no pinholes. This here was a bit ugly. The steel I was trying to weld to was pretty rusty and thin, so I just built it up and that'll do. So now I've got to just make this little patch here, then a little patch. Okay, well I'm all ready now to weld in these little patches I've done, fill in the gap. So there's the pillar all welded on and done, all the little bits done, everything's all done. That is actually a weld there, that's just because of ground there, it's not a hole. Anyway, so that's all ready to go. What I will do now is I will trial fit the door, and while it's on there I will fit the guard back up and reinforce it and fix all that up on the inside, and then I can pull it apart and paint it. Okay, there's not too much wrong with this guard. I've hammered up this lip here and straightened that all out, and that's pretty good actually. The main issue is up here where it's been crushed, and that's just got nothing there to support it, so the guard's flopping around a bit. I think what caused the initial damage was this top hinge. It was so rusty it was just flopping around, so I think that's probably what caused it. So I'm going to, it's only a farm vehicle, so I'm going to just weld a strip in behind here. So she's all cleaned up. I checked the door fits, everything fits. So yeah, I'm going to give this a coat of etch or a coat of zinc, same shit, different label. When it's all cured, I will go around with a bit of, believe it or not, just no more nails, just to fill up all the pinholes. Doesn't really matter. And I'll let that dry for a while and then paint it. So nothing flash, just get it sealed off. Underneath the inside here, up there, I'm just going to get in there with a paintbrush and try and get where I can. Like I said, it's a farm hack, so. But yeah, that'll last a few years. I don't know why when they did this they left a hole there for the water to get down inside these things. It's quite a few of them all the way along, so I might just glue them up with no more nails. Okay, so it's all etched up. So now what I'm going to do is I get a piece of my Scotch-Brite here. This is 240 grit, the red one, and the grey one in here, this grey one here is I think 800 or 1000 grit, but I'll just use a bit of the red. And the idea behind that is a bit of red with a bit of Prepsol or terps or whatever, and you just scratch up here a bit, clean it up with a dry rag, go around, do all over the primer as well. The primer doesn't need to have Prepsol in it, so you probably do the primer, all the primer areas first, just give it a scratch. Then scratch up all this, anywhere that you're going to be blending out a bit of paint. The idea of that is... So there we are, a bit of glue squeezed in all the cracks and holes and pits and things to make sure nothing's going to leak. Just rain some down that seam there just to make sure no water gets underneath. And there we are up there, all lovely dovely. All in there, lovely dovely. At a later stage I might, if I do have any windscreen adhesive, I'll put a layer over that just to keep it sealed off. Alright, so there we have a coat of white enamel. Isn't that shiny? I just use this stuff. There's lots of different ones out there. This just happened to be the one they had in stock when I went to look for a can of something to coat it with. $20. But I always look for something that's got rust inhibitors in it and adheres to anything, including metal. The reason for that is if you have a rub through or a bit of bare metal, or if you don't even need to edge prime it, just hit it with this stuff. So that's good. The other thing I wanted to just point out, I've done the guard as well, is you see that tiny little pinhole there? Can you see it? Right there. Okay. So that little pinhole is going to let a little bit of water every single day get in there. And that's what the glue's for. That's why I go around and put the glue in. I see there's one up there I missed as well, a very tiny one right in there. You can see that. The shiny paint makes it hard to see anything. No, you can't see it in the camera. Yeah, so what I do is I just find something like a toothpick or just anything with a sharp point, spray a little puddle of paint on something, and then just dab it right in the middle. And that's all you do. You don't need a brush. You just need to put a little tiny blob of paint in it, and dip, and that'll be gone. So I will just... You leave that until your top coat's dry before you do that, by the way. Otherwise it'll just flow out and open back up again. So I'm going to leave this till tomorrow. I need that paint to dry up before I can do anything. I'll get it all put back together tomorrow. Before I pull this out, and I've got my body protective sprayer. It's a long hose, and I will just put some rust kill in it, the stuff that drives into a proper etch primer. So I'll put that down there, spray it all down there. I want to flood down the inside of this pillar around the top here, all around the top up here where I've welded. I want it to come running down here, all around the edges. So I'll be spraying all around there, with spraying inside there with the hose, trying to get it to go all around all the edges and run down all the edges and make puddles around all the welds or anything that's sticking in from where I've been welding. And I'll spray a bit inside here, just make sure all this inside here is covered and sealed. Stick it in the bolt holes, spray it in there so it's blasting all around in there. There's a rust hole in the bottom of the body. I'll go up through there and spray upwards as well. Just make sure that everything in there is coated with something so it doesn't go rusty again. And that should last 10-15 years. So that's the goal, is cheap. All up, this job has cost me, the steel's all scrap steel. All up it's cost me probably $5 worth of zinc it, and $10 worth of this enamel spray and my welding sundries. So maybe, I don't know, let's say $50 all up to do this job. And it's more than good enough for a farm. It's well worth it to keep an off-road or a farm vehicle. Well, seeing as we've gone to the effort of doing the pillar, we're now going to go to the effort of sorting out the motor. When I brought it, I didn't check, but when I took this rocker thing off after we'd been driving it for a couple of days at home, I discovered this. Oh dear, she's full of sludge. So I did a head gasket on it, and because I thought, oh, it's just a blind head gasket, so I pulled it off and had a look, and the head gasket didn't look too bad. So I did it all anyway, put it all on, put it all back together, and she sludged up straight away again. So I'm pretty sure it's got a cracked head. I've scored another motor for $450, which apparently has 160 Ks on it, so that'll be good for another 10 years for us, for a farm hack. So this motor's coming out, so I will do that.